"Grace, this marriage certificate of yours is fake." The staff member looked at Grace with a hint of pity and sympathy in their eyes. "Moreover, according to the system, Mr. Vincent registered his marriage with a woman named Maya half a month ago." Hearing that her boyfriend of 6 years had secretly obtained a marriage certificate with his first love behind her back, Grace was not very surprised. "Okay, thank you for your trouble." After saying that, she put the fake marriage certificate back into her bag, put on her sunglasses, and turned to leave. Standing at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau, she sent a message to her senior. "Senior, I'll go with you to start a nursing business." The other end seemed to be busy and did not reply immediately. Grace put her phone in her pocket, randomly hailed a taxi by the roadside, and handed the driver an address. It was not until near dusk that he returned home exhausted. Just as she took out her keys, a ding sound came from behind. Vincent walked out of the elevator, smiled, and asked, "Yao Yao, where have you been?" Grace looked at the smile on his face, stunned for a moment. "I went to the place where we got our marriage certificate. I originally wanted to take a few more photos as a memento, but I found that it had turned into an empty lot." "Do you know why?" As she said this, she stared at Vincent, trying to see a trace of guilt on his face. But the man only stiffened for a moment before returning to his usual calm demeanor. "You must have gone to the wrong place. We already have the marriage certificate. We can take photos later when we have time. I brought you macarons, the new products from your favorite store. You can try them later and see if you like them." As he spoke, Vincent handed her the packaging bag, opened the door, and walked straight towards the bathroom. Grace lowered her head and weakly tugged at the corner of her lips. "Vincent, there is no future for us." He silently walked into the study and put the fake marriage certificate back into the safe. 3 days ago, after obtaining the marriage certificate, Vincent only showed it to her once before hurriedly locking it in the safe. At the time, she naively thought it was out of importance for their marriage, until last night. Grace got up to get a drink of water but accidentally overheard her on the balcony talking on the phone. "He wenching, how did you end up with Maya again? You chased after him for 3 whole years, and as soon as he agreed to be with you, he eloped abroad with someone else. He almost killed you. Don't tell me you still like him." Vincent was silent for a few seconds before slowly saying, "I got the certificate with Mu Yang half a month ago. Her parents are forcing her to marry an old man. And I can't bear to see her suffer like that." Grace stood frozen, as if plunged into an ice cellar. Both he and the person on the other end of the phone knew that Vincent's reluctance was far more than just being unwilling to part with something simple. He had never let go of Maya at all. 6 years. He thought he had finally gotten his wish, that he could spend the rest of his life with the one he loved. But in the end, he discovered that he had never entered Vincent's heart from beginning to end. The Civil Affairs Bureau was fake, the marriage certificate was fake, and these 6 years of relationship were all fake. How ridiculous, and how tragic, since Vincent had already married Qiao Muyan. There was no need for him to stay here and humiliate himself. From now on, he would head towards a future without Vincent. Vincent's phone, which was on the coffee table, suddenly rang. The specially set exclusive ringtone particularly noticeable in the silent living room. Grace hesitated for a moment, but still chose to walk over. However, before he could reach the coffee table, he was bumped in the calf by a figure wrapped in water vapor, hitting the sharp corner of the table heavily. The intense pain instantly brought tears to Grace's eyes. Yet, the culprit who caused all of this, Vincent, was completely unaware. He grabbed the phone and turned back into the bathroom. Grace endured the pain and limped to the sofa. As soon as she sat down, a tense, yet composed and gently soothing voice came from the bathroom. "Don't be afraid, stay in the room, don't come out, I'm coming to find you now." A pang of bitterness surged in Grace's heart. In the 6 years they had been together, Vincent had always been calm and rational in front of her, but only today, seeing him panic over a phone call, did she finally understand that there was no such thing as being naturally indifferent. It was just that he didn't love her. Vincent walked out of the bathroom with a look of anxiety. He didn't stop as he passed her, only leaving a sentence. "Something came up at the company. Don't wait for me." Thus, he missed that she used to hand him his coat when he left and told him to come home early. This time, Song Qiao not only didn't ask a word, but didn't even look up at him. Grace sat alone on the sofa for a long time, until the pain in her legs slowly dissipated. Then he stood up and returned to the bedroom, beginning to pack his things, a pair of couples cups that Vincent had bought a long time ago but never used, a pair of couples rings that she had made herself but not yet sent out. For their wedding, the concentric knots Grace had woven by hand, the 100 happinesses picture she had written stroke by stroke, were now all thrown into the trash bag without hesitation. For 2 full hours, the room was half emptied. Grace had just breathed a sigh of relief when her phone suddenly rang. Her senior's voice was full of excitement. Yao Yao, I'm currently on a business trip abroad, and I just woke up to this good news. Welcome to our team, I'll be back in a week, and then I'll pick you up to go to protect the sea. But didn't you say you were going to prepare for your wedding with your boyfriend? Will he agree to you going to Hu-hai? Song Qiao was silent for a moment upon hearing this. Although he had been with Vincent for 6 years, because Vincent didn't like to publicize, very few people knew about their relationship. It wasn't until 3 days ago, when his senior came to ask him if he wanted to join her newly opened studio for nurses in Hu-hai, that Grace told him that she was getting married. But unexpectedly, it was a slap in the face. In just a few days, he said calmly. It doesn't matter, the wedding is cancelled. As soon as Vincent returned home and pushed open the bedroom door, he heard this sentence, and a trace of panic flashed in his eyes. What wedding is cancelled? Grace was startled by the sudden sound behind her. She calmed herself and made a random excuse, saying that a friend had a temporary problem, so the wedding was cancelled. Vincent didn't suspect anything either. Didn't you say you wanted to take couple photos for your birthday a few days ago? The photographer called me today and asked us to go take them tomorrow. Grace subconsciously wanted to refuse, but before she could speak, Vincent's eyes turned and he saw the empty table, and he frowned in confusion. Did you just clean the room? It feels like a lot of things are missing. Grace nodded naturally. Well, I won't need them anyway. They're just taking up space at home. For some reason, when Vincent heard this, he felt a strange feeling in his heart. He kept staring at the table. Grace swallowed the words of refusal. She just wanted to leave quietly and didn't want to cause any trouble at this time. So she said loudly, "Go to bed early. Don't we have to go take pictures tomorrow?" Seeing that Grace's face was normal, Vincent didn't think too much about it. The two of them had their own thoughts and went to sleep back to back. The next day when she went out, Grace laboriously dragged the garbage bag, preparing to throw it into the trash can downstairs. Vincent took it proactively and asked with some surprise, "How come it's so heavy? What's all this stuff?" As he spoke, he used one hand to fiddle with the opening of the bag, seemingly wanting to open it and take a look. Grace subconsciously raised her hand and pressed on Vincent's arm, saying it was just some useless stuff. Just then, the elevator arrived, and after this interruption, Vincent lost interest, watching the man throw the bag into the trash without hesitation. Grace felt a lot lighter. After arriving at the studio, the staff took them to choose the clothes to wear for the shoot. Looking at the various wedding dresses in front of her, Grace was about to ask if there were any other options when Vincent suddenly stopped in front of a wedding dress, gritted his teeth, and said, "Wear this one. Didn't you say you liked this style before?" Grace looked at the court-style wedding dress, slightly stunned. Half a month ago, she had shared a similar wedding dress with Vincent. If it were before he discovered Maya's existence, knowing that Vincent remembered her preferences, she would have been overwhelmed with emotion. But now she felt nothing. However, she was too lazy to choose another one, so she simply went along with his wishes. A few minutes later, while helping Song Qiao adjust her wide skirt, the staff member smiled and praised, "Grace, you and your boyfriend must be very much in love. The wedding dress he chose really suits you. The photos will definitely turn out perfectly." Before the words had even finished, another staff member carefully walked in. "Mister," he said, "there's an urgent matter at the company, so we'll take a set of solo photos for you today, and we'll come back in a few days to complete the couple's photos." The smile on the staff member's face was a little forced, and they even stopped a few steps away. They were afraid that the girl's emotions would suddenly spiral out of control and affect them. After all, Similar situations had happened in the photo studio before, but to his surprise, Grace simply nodded and calmly accepted everything. After the photoshoot, she took a taxi home alone. Before she even entered, she heard the soft laughter of a woman coming from the living room. "Brother Wenshing, I didn't expect that after so many years, I could still eat a meal cooked by you." At the dining table, Vincent naturally placed the freshly wrapped shrimp meat into the bowl of the woman across from him. Just as he was about to say something, he turned his head and saw Grace standing at the door. He was stunned for a few seconds before he remembered to introduce them. "Yao Yao, this is Maya. I've had a little trouble recently, so she's staying at our place for a few days." Maya, sitting across from him, subtly glanced at him and softly said, "You must be Tattoo Bro's girlfriend, right? I've heard him mention you. I'm sorry for bothering you during this time." "Oh, Vincent made my favorite salt-baked shrimp. Why don't you sit down and have some with us?" As she spoke, she stood up, gave up the seat opposite, and sat next to Vincent. Acting like the mistress of the house, Grace originally thought it was just Vincent's wishful thinking, but now it seemed they were two peas in a pod. "You guys eat, I'm tired. I'm going back to the bedroom to rest." After saying that, he turned and walked towards the bedroom, but when he saw the scene behind the door, he froze. A huge wedding photo hung on the wall, with Maya in a strapless wedding dress pressed tightly against Vincent, their noses touching, gazing deeply at each other, like a couple in love for many years. At this moment, Vincent came after her from the living room. "Yao Yao, go rest in the guest room. Muyan isn't feeling well. And this bedroom faces the sun, so I took the liberty of letting him stay in this room." Halfway through his sentence, he saw the wedding photo on the wall, paused for a moment, and then continued, "This photo was just taken to appease her family's pressure to get married. Taking wedding photos when we got the marriage certificate was just for show." Meeting Grace's cold gaze, a sense of panic inexplicably surged in Vincent's heart, and he subconsciously wanted to grab her arm. "Yao Yao. Don't overthink it, I just want the next second." Grace dodged his touch. "Don't touch me." This was the first time in 6 years together that Grace had shown such resistance to him. Vincent's heart suddenly stopped. He was about to explain when Maya suddenly burst in, tearfully and aggrievedly saying, "Grace, don't quarrel with Tattoo Bro, it's my fault, I shouldn't have moved in and bothered you. I'll leave right away." Vincent immediately stopped her. "It has nothing to do with you." Hearing this, Maya's tears rolled down like beads from a broken string. "Brother Wenshing, you've already helped me a lot. I can't let you make Grace unhappy because of me. Perhaps those things were destined for me to bear. It's God punishing me. I accept my fate for being willful and doing wrong in the past." His tear-reddened eyes and longing gaze severely stung Vincent's shit. He softly comforted her. "Don't worry, with me here, no one can force you to marry, Yao Yao. He won't be angry about this. You don't need to go anywhere, just stay here peacefully." Watching the scene before her, Grace tugged at the corner of her lips. "Yes, why would I be angry? After all, this will be your home from now on." After dropping these words, she turned and walked out of the bedroom. Maya whimpered aggrievedly. "Is Grace still angry?" But this time Vincent didn't comfort her. A shocking wave arose in his heart because of those words. He rushed out without thinking. Grabbed Song Shuyao's wrist. "What did you mean by that? What do you mean this is his home, Mu Yang? He's being forced to marry by his family and is also being harassed by a strange man. I just want to help him. You're also a woman, can't you understand him? Do you have to be jealous and throw a tantrum at a time like this?" Before the words had faded, the sound of breaking glass suddenly came from the bedroom. Vincent's expression changed, and he abruptly shook him off and turned to rush inside. "Muyan, what are you doing?" The man's voice was full of panic. Maya knelt on the ground, a bloody mark winding around her wrist, the whole person a weeping mess. "Leave me alone, no one cares about me in this world anyway. If my death can stop Grace from being angry, then I will be content." Vincent snatched the broken glass from her hand, pressed hard on her wound with one hand, and turned to roar at Grace. "Grace, are you satisfied seeing Muyan like this? Don't you feel any guilt or self-blame in your heart? No wonder they say you're ungrateful. You didn't even shed a tear when your own father died. How could a cold-blooded and selfish person like you care about the life and death of others? These words were like a heavy hammer, striking Song Shuyao's heart hard, shaking her limbs numb and her whole body cold. Her deepest memory of childhood was of an alcoholic father and broken sticks. So when her father died unexpectedly, Grace didn't shed a single tear. Relatives all said she was ungrateful. This incident became a thorn stuck deep in her heart, and every touch would draw blood. Later, Vincent learned about this and comforted and enlightened her for a long time before she finally let go of her knot. But now, he is also the one who is stabbing this thorn back into her heart, and the last trace of love in Grace's heart for Vincent slowly dissipates. Vincent. I never said he couldn't move in, and I wasn't throwing a tantrum or avoiding you. It's just because I'm severely allergic to seafood. Vincent then noticed that Grace had a large rash on her wrist where he had touched her. Seeing Grace's red eyes, and remembering what he had just said, he felt a pang of guilt and bit me. Seeing this, Qiao Muyan struggled again, gritting her teeth. When Sheng, don't stop me, just let me die. During the struggle, the wound on her wrist began to bleed again. Vincent couldn't bother to comfort Grace any longer. He picked up Maya and hurried out. I won't let anything happen to you. I'll take you to the hospital now. Grace stood quietly in place until their figures disappeared, the bedroom floor a mess. After Grace took the medicine, she moved her things to the guest bedroom. Passing the pile of broken glass on the floor, she stopped, bent down, and picked up a photo. It was the only and last photo of him and Vincent together. When he was packing last time, he hadn't decided what to do with it. But Maya took the initiative to make the choice for him. Grace curled her lips, tore the photo into pieces, and threw it into the trash can. Vincent didn't come back that night. The next morning at 5 o'clock, Grace was awakened by the sounds coming from the kitchen. When Vincent saw him with his sleepy eyes, a trace of guilt flashed in his eyes. Did I wake you? Muyan didn't eat much last night. So I'm making him some seafood porridge to take over. Have a bowl while it's hot. Grace silently watched the rice porridge bubbling in the pot. Even though Maya had been gone for many years, Vincent still clearly remembered all of his likes and dislikes, and he had been with Vincent day and night for 6 years. And just yesterday, he had mentioned that he was allergic to seafood, but he didn't take it to heart at all. Grace only found out that he could cook last night. Whether there is love or not, sometimes you can see it at a glance, Song Shu said indifferently. I have no appetite. No need to save any for me. With that, he prepared to return to the bedroom to continue sleeping. But Vincent suddenly said, Yao Yao, I saw Mu Yang get hurt last night and was a little anxious. I misspoke in the heat of the moment. Please don't take it to heart. Grace nodded calmly. Yes, the situation was urgent at the time. I can understand. Vincent didn't expect him to be so generous. Looking at his downcast eyes, he suddenly felt a bit guilty. We haven't been on a date in a long time. After we're done with Mu Yang's matter, I'll take you on a trip to relax. Grace responded casually. Anyway, he would be leaving in a few days. So there was no difference between agreeing or refusing. 3 days later, he returned home with his friend after shopping, only to unexpectedly find that Vincent and Maya had also returned. The two were sitting intimately on the sofa, looking through a photo album. Seeing him, Maya's eyes lit up. Grace, you're back. Tattoo Bro and I are looking at old photos. Friends used to say that we looked like a married couple, but I thought they were joking. But a few days ago, when we went to take wedding photos, the photographer said the same thing. Come and see, do we really look like a married couple? As soon as she finished speaking, the surrounding air seemed to freeze for a moment. There was undisguised provocation in Maya's words, but Grace nodded indifferently. I think they are right. You two really do. Halfway through his sentence, Vincent suddenly interrupted him. There's a class reunion tonight. Yao Yao, why don't you come with us? A touch of sarcasm flashed through Grace's heart. Presumably Vincent thought he was angry, so he was trying to make up for it by taking him to the party. All the way, the car was unusually quiet, and the three of them were preoccupied. After arriving at the hotel, Maya walked beside Vincent, naturally talking about their school days. When she got excited, she even took the initiative to hold his arm. Grace didn't say a word from beginning to end, just silently followed behind them. As soon as they entered, everyone crowded around them. "What's going on with you two? I didn't expect that after all these years of twists and turns, you two would still end up together." Maya didn't explain, but just blushed and smiled shyly. At this moment, someone noticed Song Shuyao at the door. "Who is this lady?" Vincent's body stiffened, as if he had just remembered Grace's existence. She opened her mouth, just about to explain, when she heard Grace say calmly, "I'm their friend." Vincent glanced at her with a complicated expression. But considering Maya beside him, he ultimately didn't say anything more. Others found it strange, but didn't ask too much, inviting him to take a seat. Long-lost friends gathered together. Wishing they could chat about everything under the sun, he Wensheng chatted with friends while thoughtfully picking up food for Maya, even remembering to pick out the cilantro she didn't like, and Grace sat aside, quietly playing the role of a friend. Midway through the party, he went to the restroom. When he returned to the door of the private room, he heard a voice from inside. "Vincent, be honest. Have you liked any other women in the years that Mu Yang has been abroad?" The room was silent. Everyone waiting for Vincent's answer, but Maya, who was sitting next to him, took the initiative to help him out. "Okay, stop asking. It's normal for him to have liked other people during the years I've been abroad." Although she said that, her eyes were already filled with tears, and the smile on her face was somewhat strained. Vincent felt a pang in his heart when he saw her like this, and he helplessly whispered, "No, I haven't liked any other woman." Maya finally burst into tears and laughter, shyly burying herself in his arms. Seeing this, the others instantly began to jeer and scream. Grace didn't want to go in and disturb their excitement, so she simply took a taxi home. A few hours later, Vincent carried the drunken Maya back. He carefully placed the girl in his arms on the bed, a pair of fair arms softly wrapped around his neck. "Brother Sheng, don't go. If I hadn't been willful and left the country, wouldn't there be Song Shuyao between us? The one taking wedding photos with you now would be me. And we would be a real couple, wouldn't we? Please don't leave me, okay?" Hearing this, Vincent paused in his attempt to get up, and Maya took the opportunity to kiss him directly. Grace pushed open the bedroom door and saw this ambiguous scene. He was stunned for a moment, then turned and left the room. Anyone who saw their boyfriend kissing another woman would probably not feel good, but perhaps because he was mentally prepared, he didn't find it too difficult to accept. Watching Grace's back, Vincent felt an unprecedented sense of panic. He pushed Maya away and chased after him. "Babe, let me explain. I understand. Maya is drunk. You should go take care of her." "I won't be angry." Facing his sincere eyes, Vincent felt an unspeakable panic in his heart, as if something was getting out of control. He asked in a strained voice, "Why aren't you angry at all? You said we were just friends at the class reunion. You didn't react at all when you saw Mu Yanqing. And you even told me to take care of him. Yao Yao, I'm your boyfriend. Why are you pushing me to others?" Grace was silent for a few seconds. And just as she was about to lay everything out and explain it clearly, Maya's scream suddenly came from the bedroom. Vincent's face changed instantly, and he pushed the door open without hesitation. Maya, huddled on the bed, ran down barefoot and stumbled into his arms. "That pervert came to catch me, Vincent. I'm so scared. Don't leave me alone. Please don't leave me, okay?" Before she finished speaking, Vincent picked her up and held her around the waist, his voice gentle. "Don't be afraid. I'm here. No one can hurt you. I will never leave you." Maya looked at Grace over Vincent's shoulder, her eyes full of provocation, showing no sign of her earlier drunken state. "So Vincent, this is the answer. It was never me who pushed you to someone else, but you who actively chose Maya, time and time again." Vincent stayed with Maya all night. Grace didn't mind. Her senior colleague had finished her work ahead of schedule and would probably be back in the country to see him the day after tomorrow. Hearing this news, he felt a little relieved. The next morning, Grace noticed at breakfast that Vincent had left his phone on the dining table. Looking at the screen full of work messages, she pondered for a moment, then walked to the master bedroom door, but before she could raise her hand, Maya opened the door. % Grace. "The tattooed guy took care of me all night and hasn't woken up yet. You shouldn't disturb him right now." As she spoke, she tugged at her collar. revealing red marks on her neck. Grace calmly placed the phone in his hand. Okay, then remember to give him his phone. With that, she turned to leave but was grabbed by Maya. How can you be so shameless? Vincent doesn't love you at all. Let me tell you the truth, we've not only taken wedding photos, but we've also gotten our marriage certificate. I am his real wife now. Why don't you get out of our house? As soon as she finished speaking, a sound came from inside the house. Maya suddenly changed her face again and begged in terror. Grace, I'll move out right away, please don't be angry. Then, his back slammed heavily against the door panel, and he slid weakly to the ground. The next second, Vincent rushed out, looking at Maya's pained expression, his eyes instantly filled with raging anger. Grace, what are you doing? You were the one who agreed to let me take care of him, and I thought you were really being so generous, but it turns out you're playing these underhanded tricks behind my back. Grace's face turned cold. I didn't hit him, nor did I force him to leave. If you don't believe me, you can check the surveillance footage yourself. Hearing this, Maya's eyes flashed, and he quickly said, Wen-sheng, don't blame Grace, it was my own carelessness that caused me to fall, although that's what he said. His fragile expression made him seem like he was reluctantly compromising. Vincent's eyes immediately showed a hint of heartache, and he carefully hugged him into his arms. Okay, you don't need to cover up for him. Grace, even though you are my girlfriend, if you dare to hurt Mu Yang again, then don't blame me for being impolite. After saying this, he hugged Maya and turned to leave. Grace took a deep breath, suppressing the anger in her heart. No matter what she said, Vincent wouldn't believe her. So there was no need for her to bother arguing. Song-shu needed to compose himself. He went out and spent the day with a good friend, only taking a taxi home as evening approached. Standing at his front door, just as he took out his keys from his bag, he suddenly caught a glimpse of a dark figure. Every hair on his body stood on end, and he wanted to run away, but the next second, someone grabbed his hair and dragged him back, feeling the dagger against his neck. Grace didn't dare to move rashly anymore. He tried his best to suppress the fear in his heart. I have money in my bag, you can take it all if you want, just don't hurt me. However, the man just took out his phone and made a video call. The phone rang several times, and it was about to hang up when someone finally answered. Vincent, bring Maya back immediately. If I don't see him in 15 minutes, you can forget about seeing your girlfriend again. Seeing the dagger at Grace's neck, Vincent panicked instantly. Don't hurt her. Where are you? I'll come find you right away. Mu Yang, Chen Ming kidnapped Yao Yao. Tell him not to hurt her. The camera shakes. Qiao Muyan's face appears on the screen. Mark the man stares straight at her. I'm Mu Yang. You clearly said you would marry me. I abandoned everything for you. You can't leave me. The more he spoke, the more emotional he became. The dagger left a bloody mark on Grace's neck, and she couldn't help but cry out in pain. Seeing this scene, Vincent's heart suddenly stopped. Don't touch her, Yao Yao. Don't be afraid, I'll come save you. Looking at Vincent's nervous expression, Grace couldn't help but her eyes welled up. She bit her lip, not letting herself cry out. However, the next moment, Maya's words froze him in place. Brother Wensheng, don't worry, he's not Mark Grace at all. There's really nothing between Brother Wensheng and me. You didn't need to put on this whole act to test his feelings. As soon as these words came out, Vincent frowned, a hint of hesitation on his face. Grace's heart sank to the bottom. I wasn't acting, Vincent. Believe me just this once. Just once. At this critical moment, he couldn't care less about the dagger against his neck, pathetically begging Vincent. On the other side, Maya sighed helplessly. Stop pressuring Brother Wensheng. Would you stop doing these things if I take the initiative to leave? Finally, Vincent's face turned completely cold. Grace, I don't have time to play these tricks with you. Even if you were really kidnapped today, I wouldn't let Muyan go. He hung up the phone without hesitation, leaving behind these words. Grace stared blankly at the screen, feeling like she had fallen into an icehouse, her whole body cold. From behind her, Mark's voice was full of anger. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for being Vincent's girlfriend. In the next life, remember to open your eyes wide and don't look for her again. When Grace opened her eyes again, she was already lying in a hospital bed. Vincent was by the bed, watching him nervously. shaking his head. "You're awake. Is anything uncomfortable?" Grace's brain was a mess right now, but he didn't forget that Vincent believed Maya had ruthlessly put him in danger. If it hadn't been for the neighbor who appeared to save him, he probably would have lost his life by now. "I'm sorry, I was wrong. I shouldn't have doubted you. Don't be angry, okay? I haven't met Mark. I didn't know that person was really him." Grace withdrew her hand and interrupted him expressionlessly. "Does Maya not know Mark either?" Vincent's body stiffened, and he explained in a strained voice that the light was too dim, and that Mu Yang just didn't recognize him when he found out that the person really was Mark. He cried with remorse for a long time. "Anyway, Mark has already been arrested, so please don't blame him anymore, okay? Bite, I know you're the kindest. He almost lost his life." Maya only shed a few tears, and Vincent came to ask her to forgive him. Just then, a nurse suddenly rushed in. Miss Qiao is awake, and she's crying and asking to see you." This time, Vincent didn't choose to leave immediately, but stubbornly looked at him. Grace twitched the corner of his mouth. "Go ahead. I'm tired and want to rest." With that, he turned his back and closed his eyes. Vincent thought he had agreed to forgive Maya, and thoughtfully covered him with the blanket. "I'll go see her and come back to be with you in a little while." Leaving these words behind, he turned and hurried away with the nurse. A few minutes later, Grace completed the discharge procedures alone and hailed a cab on the roadside. On the way, he received a photo from Maya. Vincent was kneeling on the ground, holding his ankle, carefully putting on his shoes, looking at the words being typed at the top of the screen. Grace casually blacklisted him. Back home, he went straight into the study, took out the fake marriage certificate from the safe, and tore it to pieces without hesitation, throwing it into the trash can. Then he picked up his luggage and went straight to the airport. From now on, his future would no longer have Vincent in it. In the hospital room on the other side, Vincent looked at the darkening sky outside the window and felt inexplicably uneasy. Maya noticed his strange behavior. Her eyes darkened, and she pretended to be aggrieved, saying, "Vincent, can you stay with me tonight? I'm so scared. Please don't leave me alone." "Okay." As she spoke, she began to sob. Looking pitiful, looking at Maya, who was weeping like a pear blossom in the rain, Vincent subconsciously wanted to agree to her request. However, as the words reached his lips, Grace's pale face and the suppressed redness in her eyes when she was kidnapped suddenly flashed through his mind. For some reason, his heart felt like it was pricked by a needle, causing a dense, tingling pain. He frowned and refused Maya's request. "Mark has already been arrested, so you don't have to worry about him coming after you anymore. Yaro was frightened this time, and I have to go back and be with her. It's getting late, so you should get some rest too. I'll come see you tomorrow." Hearing this, Maya suddenly stopped crying and grabbed his arm. Meeting the man's questioning gaze, she forced a stiff smile and said, I'll go with you. Grace's kidnapping is also my responsibility, and I want to apologize to her in person." Maya didn't know why he had suddenly changed his attitude, but she knew that she must not let him and Grace be alone together. Vincent didn't think much about it and agreed directly. For some reason, ever since just now, a strange sense of unease had been lingering in his heart, making him want to see Grace right away. He hurried towards the ward at the other end of the corridor. Before he even reached the door, he said with a smile, Yao, I'm back. What do you want to eat tonight? I'll go buy it for you later." But when he saw the empty room, Vincent's smile instantly froze. Yao, Song Shu Yao. He cried out incredulously as he rushed into the ward, anxiously calling Grace's name. The nurse from the next room was quickly drawn over. "Grace was discharged this afternoon. Please keep your voice down and don't disturb the other patients." Hearing this, Maya was secretly pleased, but feigned grievance. "Grace must still be angry with me. Brother Wensheng, I really didn't mean to mistake her for someone else." If it had been before, Vincent would have comforted her without hesitation, and even helped her criticize Grace for being petty, but this time, he walked out the door in silence with a cold face. Yao must be angry. After all, she was so frightened just now, and I didn't stay by her side. It was indeed his fault this time. He would apologize to Yao properly and explain everything that had happened recently. Maya, who was left standing there, was stunned for a moment and rushed after him, grabbing his arm. "Brother Wensheng, where are you going? Grace is angry right now, she probably wants to be alone. You should not disturb her for now, I will accompany you back tomorrow." Before she could finish speaking, Vincent shook off her hand. "I'm going to find Yao Yao now, so don't cause me any more trouble. Oh, and move back home after you are discharged from the hospital. Also, find a time to get the divorce certificate done as soon as possible." Leaving those words behind, he couldn't care about anything else and ran downstairs, hailing a cab straight home, all the way. Vincent frantically dialed Grace's number, but all he heard was the same mechanical electronic voice saying the phone was switched off. At this moment, a glimmer of hope remained in his heart. Perhaps Grace's phone had simply run out of battery, which was why she couldn't answer his calls. As long as he got home, he would definitely see his beloved. Vincent kept urging the driver to go faster, but when he pushed open the door and saw the empty and unfamiliar living room, he froze. Song Qiao's and small blanket on the sofa, the ceramic mug he often used on the table, and the toys he treasured on the display cabinet. All things about Song Qiao had disappeared. He stumbled to the cabinet and opened the door in front of him with a trembling hand. This cabinet originally contained things that Grace had prepared for their wedding, the concentric knots he had woven by hand, the he had written by hand, each representing his cherishment of the wedding. But now all of this is gone. Vincent searched every corner of the house relentlessly, deceiving himself into thinking that perhaps Grace had just put them somewhere else. But the more he searched, the more panicked he became. In just a few days, all traces of Grace's life in the house had been erased, replaced by Maya's belongings everywhere, especially when he pushed open the door to the master bedroom and saw the huge wedding photo on the bedside. He felt as if he could hardly breathe. No, it shouldn't be like this. This was clearly his and Grace's home. At this moment, Vincent finally understood what Grace must have felt when she saw this wedding photo. But now it was all too late. Grace was gone. She didn't want him anymore. Vincent rushed over, ignoring everything, tore down the wedding photo, threw it on the ground, and punched the version of himself in the photo who was embracing another woman, again and again. Even though his hands were cut and bleeding, he didn't stop. As if doing so could cover up the stupid mistakes he had made in the past, it wasn't until the wedding photo was smashed to pieces, unrecognizable from its original form, that Vincent finally stopped. He looked at the mess on the floor and walked dejectedly towards the living room. When he passed the trash can, he paused, and Wensheng picked up a few red fragments with trembling hands. When he clearly saw the 3 words marriage certificate on them, his brain buzzed, and it suddenly went blank. Song Qiao. She knows the marriage certificate is fake now. Vincent's breathing became more rapid. How could he know all this? In a flash of thought, he recalled Grace asking about the Civil Affairs Bureau that day at the door, so he had already known the truth since then. More and more details surfaced in Vincent's mind. The phone call cancelling the wedding, his increasingly calm attitude, and his actively pushing him towards Maya. Vincent knelt on the ground, his face filled with despair. So he had been planning to leave him a week ago, but he was completely unaware, missing the last chance to save him. He just wanted to help Maya. He never thought about breaking up with Grace. How could she be so cruel and decisive in leaving him? At the very least, she should give him a chance to explain himself. Vincent had no choice but to dial the number again and again. Even though the screen was covered in blood, he still refused to give up. Numbly holding his phone at the Huai airport, as soon as Song Shu took a bite of the airplane meal, he saw the hundreds of missed calls on his phone. Only then did he remember that he had forgotten to blacklist Vincent as well. He just couldn't figure out why Vincent wasn't spending time with his sweetheart at this moment, and why he suddenly came to bother him. While he was dazed, the phone rang again, his fingers trembled, and he answered the call. In the next second, Vincent's slightly hoarse voice immediately entered his ears. "Yao Yao, where are you now? I'll come find you, let's talk it over." Before he could finish speaking, Grace frowned unconsciously. "Vincent, there's nothing to talk about. From the moment you chose Maya, the 2 of us were completely over. Don't contact me again in the future. Let's leave each other with a little dignity." The moment Vincent heard her say it was over, The string that had been taut in his heart all afternoon snapped completely. With red eyes, he roared, "Grace, we've been together for 6 whole years, don't you have any trust in me at all? Won't you even give me a chance to explain?" Grace was so angered by his self-righteous questioning that she laughed. "Explain? You want to explain why you got a marriage certificate with Maya but still used a fake one to deceive me? Vincent, where do you get the nerve to ask me to trust you?" He Wensheng's expression grew increasingly ugly, until the last sentence fell, and his entire face turned liver-colored. "I only did those things to help him out. I've loved you from beginning to end. Give me one more chance, we're about to get married. Don't give up at a time like this, okay?" Grace didn't want to continue to entangle with him, so she simply laid her cards on the table. "Vincent, I don't care who you love now, nor do I care who you want to help. I only know that I don't love you anymore. And I can't marry a divorced man. Don't bother me anymore." After saying that, she hung up the phone, ignoring Vincent's humble pleas, and added him to the blacklist. Juanue, who was standing next to him, gave him a thumbs up in satisfaction. "Good, Yao Yao, you are decisive enough. That's how you should treat scumbags. By the way, Yao Yao, I have to go to the company later. Ethan will pick you up to go to my house. Tell him if you need anything." Hearing the familiar name, Song Shuyao's face changed, and she looked at him vigilantly. "Senior Ethan, why are you with him again?" Juayue didn't notice his strange expression and explained naturally. "I've been studying abroad before. Now I just opened a studio in Shanghai. It just so happens that Ethan is developing well here, so of course I won't waste the free resources." Grace frowned, looking nervous. "Senior, don't be fooled by him again. He doesn't deserve you at all." A touch of embarrassment flashed across Grace's face back then. He gritted his teeth before continuing. "He once confessed to me, I was afraid of affecting your mood for the exam. So I planned to tell you after the exam. Later, I heard that you broke up, so I never mentioned it again. He's not a good person. Don't be with him." Juanue froze on the spot as if struck by lightning, her eyes wide with disbelief. "What, Ethan was in love with you back then?" He didn't know what he was thinking. But his expression suddenly became a little unnatural. "Actually, Ethan is not a scumbag. He's actually quite a good person. You might have misunderstood him a bit." Grace finally understood what it meant to be blind to one's own situation but clear to an outsider. He interrupted him in exasperation. "Juanli, wake up. You were just advising me to stay away from scumbags, so why can't you figure it out for yourself now? You deserve a better man. There's no need to waste your time and feelings on him." Juanue smiled a little embarrassedly and said, "Yao Yao, is there a possibility that Ethan is my brother, the kind with blood relations?" Before the words had faded, a deep voice sounded behind him. "Grace, long time no see, it's been a few years. Ethan looks even more handsome, and his personality has become more calm." Grace held a large bouquet of tulips and sat in the passenger seat, awkwardly looking out the window. Just 5 minutes ago, she finally learned the true relationship between the two. Ethan and Annie are twins. Their parents divorced early and each remarried with one of the siblings. Although they did not live together, they never lost contact and later attended the same university together. It's just that the family relationships are complicated, so not many people know the true relationship between the two of them, which led to Grace mistakenly believing that they were a couple. When he knew the truth, he wished he could find a crack in the ground to crawl into. If he had been indiscriminately scolded when confessing to someone, and blacklisted and refused to listen to his explanation, he would probably hate that person to death. But Annie unknowingly left him to Ethan and turned away. Grace stared blankly at the flashing streetlights outside the window. "How did his neck get injured?" Ethan's voice interrupted his wild thoughts. Grace was slightly stunned, and subconsciously touched the scabbed wound on the side of his neck. Vaguely explaining that he had accidentally scratched it, he didn't want to mention the kidnapping, and Ethan was also sensible. After confirming that he had seen a doctor, he didn't ask any further questions, and Grace also silently breathed a sigh of relief. After arriving at Annie's residence, Ethan naturally squatted down and took out slippers for him, a brand new pair of pink bunnies placed at his feet. "I just bought these, so wear them for now. If you don't like them, I'll buy you new ones." Grace said, her face flushed. Before thanking him and changing into the slippers, Ethan poured him a glass of hot water and showed him around the house. Perhaps sensing her unease, a touch of loneliness flashed in the man's eyes, and he took the initiative to say, "It's getting late, you should rest early tonight. If you're missing anything, I'll go with you to buy it tomorrow." Watching Ethan's back, Grace mustered up the courage to call out to him, "Ethan." Grace pursed her lips and said seriously, "I'm sorry. I misunderstood you back then, and I scolded you without understanding the situation." The more he spoke, the softer his voice became, and his entire face was about to burn up. However, the next second, Ethan's words directly caused his brain to go blank. "Now that you know it was just a misunderstanding, can you give me a chance to pursue you?" The man's burning gaze made Grace's heart flutter. He didn't expect that after so many years. Ethan would still like him. After all, he had been with Vincent for 6 years, and he had never let go of Maya. However, he had just ended a failed relationship and didn't want to start a new one yet. He was silent for a moment and told the truth, "I'm sorry. I don't have any plans to be in a relationship right now." Hearing this, Ethan did not back down either. "After you rejected me back then, I thought about explaining everything to you, but you blocked me. And it just so happened that some things happened at home at that time. After I finished dealing with them, I heard that you had a boyfriend, so in the end I could only choose to give my blessings. But Yao, I have never forgotten you in these 6 years. Can you consider me, in this life?" Since Grace blocked him, Vincent has never had a good night's sleep. He searched almost every place he could think of, but he couldn't find him. Vincent didn't want to face the house without Grace. And he couldn't accept the fact that he had left him, so he simply lived in a hotel, trying to escape all this. But even so, he suffered from insomnia every night, and could only barely fall asleep by getting drunk every day. That day, Vincent returned to the hotel with a large bag of alcohol as usual. As soon as he entered, he received a call from a friend. "Laro, the wedding dress you ordered half a month ago has been delivered to your house." Wensheng then remembered that he had gone to a bridal shop with Grace half a month ago. At that time, he had just learned about Maya's matter, and all his attention was on her, so he didn't even get a good look at Grace in her wedding dress before leaving her in a hurry. Vincent felt endless bitterness and regret in his heart. He did not regret helping Maya, he only regretted neglecting Grace. If he had cared more about her, perhaps she wouldn't have left him so decisively. Unfortunately, there are no what ifs in the world. Wensheng's voice was hoarse. "Okay, thank you for your trouble. Wait for a moment at the door, I'll be right back." With that, he turned and walked towards the door. "Don't worry, your sister-in-law is home, she has already signed for it." Vincent's whole body stiffened, and the wine bottle in his hand fell to the ground with a crash. Who did you say signed for it?" The friend on the other end of the phone was startled by his suddenly raised voice. And he joked with a smile, "Why are you so excited? Who else could it be but your wife? Could there be another woman in your house?" Before the words had even faded, Vincent had already hung up the phone. He rushed to the roadside, hailed a cab, and sped home. All the way, his heart pounded like a drum, and his brain was in a state of extreme excitement. At this moment, Vincent had only one thing on his mind. Song Shuyao was back, and she was willing to forgive him. After all, they had 6 years of history together and were about to enter the hall of marriage. How could she bear to leave him? Besides, he had never actually cheated on her in any meaningful way. Song Shuyao's anger would pass, and now that she was back and the Maya issue had been resolved, the wedding would naturally proceed. From now on, they would never be apart again. Thinking of this, Vincent's heart unconsciously calmed down. The car sped all the way to the apartment complex, and he couldn't wait to take the elevator, so he directly climbed the 8 floors in one breath. The moment the door opened, Vincent couldn't wait to rush in. When he saw the beautiful figure in the wedding dress, he could no longer control the longing in his heart. He strode forward and hugged her tightly. "You're finally back. I know I was wrong. I will make it up to you in the future. Please don't leave me again, okay?" By the end, his voice was trembling, and tears fell uncontrollably. Held in his arms, Maya felt the warm tears falling on his shoulder, and his heart, which had been uneasy for days, finally relaxed. Since their last separation at the hospital, Vincent hadn't seen him for days, nor had he replied to any of his messages. This was unprecedented. Both in the past and now, so today, he took the initiative to come and test the waters. But to his surprise, as soon as he entered, he found that all of Song Shu's belongings were gone. Before he could be happy, someone sent over a wedding dress and called her sister-in-law repeatedly. All of this pointed to one thing. Grace and Vincent had completely broken up. As for the shattered wedding photo, he thought it might have been Grace smashing it on purpose to vent her anger when she left. But now, all of that didn't matter anymore. Vincent's reaction was enough to prove his deep love for him. They could take more and more beautiful wedding photos in the future. Thinking of this, Maya turned around excitedly and threw herself into the arms of the man in front of her. Now you know you were wrong. You clearly loved me in your heart, but you said those things to drive me away, making me sad for days. If you don't coax me properly, I won't forgive you easily. Qiao Muyan proudly raised her chin, but her eyes held unconcealable joy. However, Vincent, who now saw clearly that the woman in his arms was not Grace, froze in disbelief. He suddenly pushed Maya away with force and roared sternly, "Who told you to wear this wedding dress?" Maya tripped over the heavy skirt and fell heavily to the ground, the pain instantly bringing tears to her eyes. "Vincent, what are you doing? Isn't this the wedding dress you prepared for our wedding? What's wrong with me trying it on in advance?" As she spoke, her tears fell with a pat, pat sound. Vincent suppressed the anger in his heart and said in a low, gritted voice, "Take off the wedding dress immediately, it's not prepared for you." Originally, Maya was feeling wronged after being pushed and falling. And hearing these words, she subconsciously retorted, "If it's not for me, then who is it for? Could it be for that Song Qiao? You've already registered to marry me. She can't marry you anymore." These words hit Vincent's sore spot, and his face turned ashen in an instant. "Maya, I said from the beginning that I got a marriage certificate with you just to help you. Besides that, I have no other feelings for you. My girlfriend is Song Qiao, and I will only marry her." Maya clenched her fingertips, forcing a stiff smile. "I don't believe it, Vincent. You forgot. You said at the class reunion that you only loved me, and you said you would always protect me. And you didn't reject my kiss, and even took care of me all night." As he spoke, Vincent's face became increasingly unpleasant. It turned out he had done so many things to hurt Grace. Initially, he really just wanted to help her. But from what point did he start indulging in this feeling of being relied upon? Especially since she was the Maya who had once rejected and teased him, this gave him a strange sense of satisfaction. So, he indulged Maya in getting a marriage certificate with him, taking wedding photos, and even allowing her to move into his house. Maya endured the pain, climbed up from the ground, and walked step by step to Vincent. "Don't deceive yourself anymore. Take a good look at me. How could you not love me?" She stood on tiptoe and was about to kiss him. Just then, a violent knock came from the door, and he Wensheng abruptly pushed Maya away. As soon as he opened the door, a couple rushed in with two men. "Where is Maya? Hand over that little bitch." As soon as she finished speaking, the leading woman saw Maya in her wedding dress, rushed up, and grabbed her hair. "I've finally caught you. You harmed my son so badly. You won't have it easy either." As she said this, she dragged Maya and was about to walk out. Maya was so frightened that her face turned pale, and she struggled non-stop, trying to escape the woman's grasp. "Let go of me, Vincent. Save me. Quickly pull this madman away." Vincent finally came to his senses upon hearing this. He rushed forward, rescued Maya, and protected her behind him. "Who are you? Get out of my house now, or I'll call the police." The woman glanced at him and said coldly, "Mark is my son. I'm here to find him today. It has nothing to do with you." As soon as she said this, Vincent was instantly enraged. Although he didn't like Maya anymore, he couldn't just stand by and watch her get hurt, especially since Mark had kidnapped and hurt Song Shuyu last time. Now, his parents actually dared to come to his house openly too. But before he could speak, Chen's mother's words completely froze him in place. "My son was originally preparing to get married, but this little bitch angered away my wonderful daughter-in-law. After she spent all of my son's savings, she ran away. My son was driven crazy by her, which is why he did those wrong things. Before the words had faded, Maya grabbed Vincent's sleeve, crying, "It's not like that. Don't listen to his nonsense. It was clearly his son who was pestering me." This time, Vincent didn't blindly defend him, but looked at Chen's mother with a complex expression. "Do you have any evidence for what you're saying?" Chen's mother threw a stack of photos directly at Vincent's head, the sharp edges immediately cutting bloody marks on his face. "You want evidence? Huh? Take a good look. Isn't this the slut behind you?" In the photos, Maya was no longer the pitiful figure she was now, but smiling charmingly in every shot, leaning intimately in Chen Ming's arms. There were even a few explicit pictures of the two of them, which didn't look like Maya's claim that she was being unilaterally harassed by Mark. Chen's mother looked at Vincent's livid face and snorted coldly. "See clearly. His parents knew about this a long time ago, and they said that since it was a debt he owed, she should repay it herself. What, are you planning to pay off her debt now?" So it wasn't her parents forcing her to marry Mark, nor was it Mark shameless liar. Only now does Vincent realize how wrong he was. It turns out that Maya, whom he thought was simply wronged, was actually a mistress who actively interfered in other people's relationships. And he hurt the girl he deeply loved and should cherish most for such a terrible person. What's the difference between her and the former Mark? No, there is a difference. He has always loved Grace. He was just deceived by her. Vincent looked expressionlessly at Maya, who was hiding behind him and crying her eyes out. "I'll ask you just one question. That time, did you really not recognize Mark?" Hearing this, Maya's sobs paused, and a flustered look flashed across her eyes. The next second, she forced herself to calm down. "The light was too dark at the time. I really didn't recognize him. Vincent, please believe me. How could I possibly deliberately harm Grace? Can you please help me one more time? I'll explain everything clearly to you, and we can be together properly in the future." Before she finished speaking, Vincent slapped her hard across the face, roaring furiously, "Maya, you still haven't repented even now. And you still want to continue lying to me." He used all his strength in this slap, and Maya screamed, her forehead hitting the cabinet, instantly drawing blood. She looked at the blood on her hand and screamed in disbelief. "Vincent, how dare you hit me?" Vincent's face was full of coldness. "You almost killed Yao Yao. I only regret hitting you too lightly." Whether it was in the past or now, Vincent has always coaxed and spoiled her, and now he actually hit her for Grace. Maya was instantly overwhelmed by anger. "I did it on purpose. So what? We are already married. I am your wife. Why haven't you told him to get out? Blame Mark, that good for nothing. Why didn't he finish him off with one strike?" As soon as she said that, Vincent suddenly recalled Grace's desperate eyes when she was kidnapped, and a dense, throbbing pain shot through his heart. Vincent's face turned completely cold. "Take him away. His affairs have nothing to do with me from now on. The most important thing for him now is to find Grace's whereabouts. As for Maya being handed over to Mark's parents, she won't get away with it either." Chen's mother's eyes lit up, and she dragged Maya up from the ground and walked out. Seeing that Vincent was really no longer paying attention to her, Maya was immediately frightened, her face pale. No, tattoo bro, please save me. I'm your wife. You can't treat me like this. I was wrong. Please save me." However, the only response she received was the door being slammed shut in front of her. After everyone left, Vincent instantly lost the strength to support himself and collapsed to his knees on the ground. So, has Maya been acting all this time? The parental pressure to marry is fake. And being pestered for no reason is also fake. In a daze, he remembered the time Maya was injured, and Grace told him to look at the surveillance footage. Could that have all been fake too? Vincent suddenly lost the courage to explore the truth. If this was also Maya's design, how should he face Song Shuyao, and what face would he have to beg for her forgiveness? But Grace shouldn't be wronged by him for nothing. In the end, Vincent still trembled as he pulled up the surveillance footage. Although he already had a guess in his heart, he still couldn't bear it when he saw Maya triumphantly showing off the marks on her body and even using the marriage certificate to force Grace to leave, and his eyes turned red. However, what pained him the most was that he had chosen to stand on Maya's side without distinguishing right from wrong. If he could travel back to that day, he would definitely give that stupid version of himself a hard punch. He hated himself for being so stupid that he couldn't see through Maya's disguise. It was his indulgence that gave Maya the confidence to hurt Grace, and pushed Grace further and further away. Vincent grabbed his hair forcefully, and his whole person cried to the point of almost collapsing. "Yao Yao, where have you gone? I truly know I was wrong. As long as you can forgive me, I am willing to pay any price." However, the only response he received was the sound of the door closing in the surveillance footage as Grace dragged her suitcase away without looking back. Just then, his phone suddenly rang a few times, and a message from a friend popped up on the screen. "I found Song Shuyao's whereabouts." Ever since Ethan's confession was interrupted by Ju Anua returning home, he had been on edge for days, afraid of accidentally running into Ethan. His explanation was, "Ethan's first confession ended in failure because of me. After so many years, he finally got another chance, but I ruined it again. He probably wishes he could strangle me to death." Grace couldn't help but laugh when she heard this. "How is that possible? Senior, you're his own sister. She won't be angry." However, Annie's expression was unusually serious. "Yao Yao, you don't know, back then, after you rejected him, he locked himself in his room for 3 whole days. My dad and mom haven't spoken to each other in 800 years, but they actually came to my mom to persuade him about this matter. He really loves you. Over the years, I haven't seen any other woman around him. I'm not saying this to pressure you. Whether you accept him or not depends entirely on whether you like him. Although I'm his own sister, I still completely respect your choice. Of course, if we could become even closer, I would be even happier. Don't call me senior anymore. Just call me an you. Maybe I'll have to call you sister-in-law in the future." Leaving the last sentence, Annie winked at her playfully and pushed the door open and slipped out, leaving Grace with a helpless smile. These past few days, he has completed the onboarding procedures and officially joined Annie's studio. To adapt to the work as quickly as possible, he sometimes stays late after work to summarize the problems encountered during the work process. It wasn't until he finished work this day that he realized it was already dark all around. Grace didn't actually feel tired. After all, working before was being a beast of burden for others, but in this studio, she was investing in technology. And working overtime was also to make money for herself. She stretched and picked up her bag to walk out of the office. As soon as she got downstairs, she noticed Ethan standing under the street lamp. The man saw her. His eyes lit up. "Yao Yao, let me take you back." Grace looked down at the time and found that it was already close to 10 o'clock, and her expression couldn't help but be a little surprised. "Have you been waiting for me here all this time?" Ethan's company isn't exactly close to here. It's about a half-hour drive, especially considering it's already 10 o'clock. Grace didn't believe it was a coincidence that Ethan happened to be passing by at this hour. Ethan didn't hide anything. Explaining with a smile that Anlie had told him she wasn't home yet, he thought it was too late and unsafe for her to go home alone, so since he had nothing else to do, he waited to pick her up and take her home. Grace didn't refuse Ethan's kindness. Sitting in the car, Grace's mood was completely different from last time. She was no longer so restrained and nervous, and they even chatted a few words. Ethan was very happy with her change. He originally wanted to chat a bit more, but when he saw her tiredly yawn, he stopped talking. "Rest for a while. I'll wake you up when we get downstairs," Grace responded softly. She originally just wanted to close her eyes and rest for a moment, but unexpectedly fell asleep without realizing it. When he groggily woke up, he happened to meet Ethan's eyes. The two of them were so close that he could see himself reflected in the man's clear eyes. His heart suddenly began to beat uncontrollably. Ethan lowered his eyes to look at his lips, then leaned back a little, explaining in a restrained and husky voice, "I saw you were asleep and wanted to help you unbuckle your seatbelt so you could sleep more comfortably. I didn't mean to wake you." Grace lowered her eyes and nodded haphazardly. "Okay, it's getting late, you should go back early. See you tomorrow." As she spoke, she fumbled with the seatbelt, pushed the car door open, and got out of the car. Ethan, still in the car, watched her back as an involuntary smile tugged at the corner of his lips. The evening breeze caressed Grace's face, finally calming her down. To be honest, she didn't actually dislike Ethan. and even felt a little guilty towards him because of what had happened before, but that wasn't enough for her to accept this new relationship. Let's take it slow, and let everything happen naturally. Thinking of this, Song Shuyao felt a bit more relaxed. However, when she walked out of the elevator and looked up, she saw a figure squatting at the door. The memory of being kidnapped by Chen Ming was instantly awakened. Her hair stood on end, and without hesitation, she raised her leg to run away, but the next second, she was pulled into the man's arms. Yao Yao, I've finally found you. It wasn't until he heard the familiar voice that Grace finally came back to his senses. The psychological shadow of his last narrow escape caused his back to break out in a cold sweat, and his face turned pale with fear. However, Vincent didn't notice his strangeness, only thinking that Grace was still angry with him. He went on to say words to persuade him to stay. I know I was wrong. I have prepared all the wedding arrangements and bought your favorite wedding dress again. When you come back, we will get married, okay? Before he finished speaking, Grace gritted his teeth and pushed him away forcefully, raising his hand and slapping him hard. Vincent, I made it very clear to you last time. We have broken up. What are you doing here going crazy? He really couldn't understand what Vincent was thinking. He had already obtained a marriage certificate with Maya, but now he came to say that he wanted to marry him. Could it be that he wanted to enjoy the blessings of two women? Thinking of this, Song Shuyao felt even more disgusted and took a step back with a cold face. Vincent's heart ached. Pierced by the coldness in her eyes, he explained with a strained voice, biting back, let's not break up, okay? I was blind before, allowing Qiao Muyan to hurt you. Now I know I was wrong. I've already kicked him out. Come back, please. Grace frowned in disgust. Now that you know you did wrong, where do you get the face to come and see me? And why do you think that after I've been hurt like that, I can just go back with you without any reservations because of your frivolous apology? Having been together for 6 years, Grace had always been gentle in front of him. Hearing the undisguised disgust in his words, He Wensheng felt a sense of grievance for some reason. Yao Yao. You can't be so cruel to me. I was also deceived by him. I just wanted to help him. Believe me, I have never had excessive contact with him. Those were all fabricated by him to deceive you. I really didn't touch him. Vincent naively thought Grace was unwilling to forgive him because she mistakenly believed he had intimate contact with Maya. He couldn't wait to prove his innocence. However, Grace sneered, just wanted to help him. If you make excuses too much, have you even fooled yourself? Getting a marriage certificate, taking wedding photos, bringing her home to live, taking care of him all night, aren't these considered excessive contact? Do you have to wait until you sleep with him to be considered cheating? Grace's tone was very calm, as if she was just chatting, but with each sentence she said, Vincent's face became more and more unsightly. He Wensheng, dare you say that you didn't have your own selfish motives when you did these things? Dare you say you've never been moved by her? Until that last sentence fell, Grace's gaze, opened his mouth but couldn't say a word of defense, because Grace's words struck her heart, word by word. He had to admit that at the moment Qiao Muyan kissed him, he almost lost control. If it wasn't for his peripheral vision seeing Song Shuyu standing in the living room that night, perhaps he would have really been with Maya, but those, in his opinion, were just the most normal physiological reactions. Yes, just physiological reactions. All the men in the world would have the same reaction as him when they were thrown into their arms, not to mention that he didn't continue in the end, did he? Thinking of this, Vincent calmed down again, bit his lip, and said, I was once bewitched and did some wrong things, but I have always loved you. Just give me another chance. Can we start over? As he said that, he reached out to pull Grace into his arms. At this moment, an arm suddenly reached out from behind, stopping Vincent's movement. What do you want to do to Yao Yao? Ethan appeared in time, coldly protecting Grace behind him. Perhaps because they were both men, Vincent could tell at a glance what he thought of Song Shuyao. And a fire of anger rose in his heart. What right do you, an outsider, have to interfere in the affairs between me and my girlfriend? Get out of here. However, Ethan did not back down at all, and retorted coldly. As far as I know, Yao Yao is single now. What kind of boyfriend are you? Hearing this, Vincent's anger grew even stronger. He knew Grace's personality, and she would not easily reveal her private affairs if the relationship was not very close, suppressing the anger in his heart. He turned his head to question Song Shuyao about his relationship with her, how she could be so close to a man after only a few days in Shanghai, and if she was being fair to him. However, Grace's words froze Vincent in place. "In what capacity are you questioning me, Maya's husband?" Vincent's face instantly turned pale. He knew that if he didn't handle this matter properly, he would never be able to win back Song Shuyao, so he glanced reluctantly at Ethan standing next to Grace and said, "Yao Yao, wait for me. I will sort things out with Maya, and I will come to take you home." With that, Vincent gritted his teeth and turned to leave. Grace relaxed after drinking a cup of hot water. If Ethan hadn't shown up today, and Vincent had continued to pester her relentlessly, she really wouldn't have known what to do. But hadn't Ethan left? Why did he suddenly come back? Seeming to sense her confusion, Ethan took out a phone from his pocket, saying, "I don't know which little scatterbrain left their phone in my car." Looking at the familiar phone case, Grace blushed and quickly reached out to take it. "Thank you, Ethan," she said, thanking him not only for returning her phone, but also for helping her tonight. Ethan smiled and said loudly, "You're welcome. You can just call me Yufeng from now on. Do you have time tomorrow? Can I treat you to a meal?" Grace hesitated for a moment, avoiding his burning gaze, and slowly said, "Ethan, that man just now was my ex-boyfriend. Although I have already broken up with him, you also saw his attitude, so I probably won't start a new relationship for the time being." His words were already very clear. Grace wasn't a fool. She could see Ethan's affection for her, but she couldn't respond to his feelings yet. Vincent has always been a very stubborn person, and he doesn't want to involve anyone else in this matter until they completely break off contact. However, Ethan did not back down. He softly comforted Song Shuyao. "Yao Yao, you don't need to worry. Even if you don't accept my feelings in the end, as a friend of both me and you, I should also protect your safety. So please don't refuse my help. Rest assured tonight, with me here, I won't let him hurt you." Grace showed a sincere smile. "Thank you, Yufeng." After she finished speaking, Ethan's ears subtly turned red. He hurriedly said goodbye and left, perhaps because of Ethan's comfort, or perhaps because of his firm gaze. She slept particularly soundly that night. The next morning, Grace went downstairs as usual to get ready for work, but ran into Ethan downstairs. Looking at his slightly messy hair and the same shirt as yesterday, an absurd thought rushed into her mind. "You stayed downstairs all night last night?" Ethan nodded naturally. "Yeah. I was afraid your ex-boyfriend would come back to harass you, so I waited here for a while, and in the end, I was too lazy to go back. I just made do in the car for the night, and it's perfect timing to take you to work this morning." Grace pursed her lips. "Why didn't you go up to sleep?" Ethan paused for a moment, a hint of embarrassment flashing in his eyes, and avoided her gaze. "You're the only one at home." He only said one vague sentence, but Grace understood what he meant. Because Annie was away on a business trip yesterday and didn't come home, he chose to sleep in the car out of respect for Grace. He couldn't explain what he was feeling in his heart right now, only that a gentle warmth was slowly into his long silent heart. Ethan glanced down at his watch and proactively opened the passenger door for her. "Have you had breakfast? It's still early. I can take you to get some breakfast, and then it won't be too late to take you to the office." Grace had originally planned to just grab a bite across from the apartment complex before heading to the office, but hearing this, she nodded happily. After the two had breakfast, Ethan drove Grace to the company. "Yao Yao, I'll pick you up from work tonight." As if afraid of being rejected, Ethan hurriedly drove away. After saying this, Grace looked at his nervous appearance through the car window and couldn't help but laugh. She lowered her head and edited a message. "Okay, then I'll wait for you." In the following week, Vincent didn't show up again, and Grace couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. She knew that Vincent could never break away from Maya. After all, he was almost killed by Mark back then, and Maya just shed a few tears, and Vincent felt so sorry for her that he went to coax her. Now that she has left as Maya wished, he is even less likely to let Vincent go easily. Maybe he will just cry a few times in grievance, and Wensheng will forgive him and live a harmonious life with him. However, Vincent stopped bothering Grace, besides feeling happy for him. Ethan also felt a strange sense of melancholy. It seemed he had no excuse to continue picking up and dropping off Song Qiao from work. To be honest, he cherished this time alone together. Ethan could feel Grace's increasingly affectionate attitude towards him, and she became more and more natural when she was with him. That was enough. The ringing of the phone pulled her back to her thoughts. Ethan looked down and saw a message from Grace. "Let's go out for dinner tonight. Anua recommended a new restaurant. Let's go and see how it tastes." A hint of joy flashed in his lowered eyes, and he immediately agreed without hesitation. On the other side, Grace couldn't help but smile when she saw his reply. A week later, he represented the studio at a public launch event. On the way, his eyelids kept twitching, and an inexplicable sense of foreboding lingered in his mind. Ethan noticed his abnormality and asked with a frown, "What's wrong? Why do you look so pale?" Grace was silent for a moment, then shook her head with pursed lips. However, Ethan did not relax because of this. If she wasn't feeling well, she could skip the press conference. It wasn't a very important event anyway. Grace managed a smile and said it was nothing, just a bit nervous. This was her first time representing the studio at an event, and she didn't want to give up easily. Seeing Ethan's furrowed brow, she reassured him, saying she would withdraw from the event immediately if she felt unwell. Okay. Hearing this, Ethan finally breathed a sigh of relief and agreed to stay with her at the event, telling her to let him know if anything happened. Grace responded softly. After arriving at the venue, she was guided to her seat by the staff. The meeting proceeded smoothly, and Grace gradually relaxed. Halfway through the press conference, a disheveled woman suddenly rushed in. Before anyone could react, she went straight to Grace, knelt down with a thud, and begged, "Please, Grace, give me back my husband." It wasn't until she heard the woman's familiar voice that Grace finally recognized the person in front of her as Maya. God knows what she'd been through in the past 2 weeks, but she had lost a lot of weight. Her face was an unhealthy pale, which made her red eyes look even more frightening. She grabbed Song Qiao's sleeve and pleaded, "Grace, please don't seduce my husband, I beg you. Please don't destroy my family." Everyone present was stunned by this sudden turn of events. Upon seeing this, the media who came to the press conference immediately smelled the gossip and instantly aimed their cameras at Grace and Maya, who was kneeling on the ground. Some were even eager to rush forward to get first-hand information for a juicy interview. Grace suppressed the anger in her heart, coldly pulled away Maya's hand. "Maya, stop acting crazy here. Vincent and I have already broken up. And I was with him for 6 years. You should know better than I do who the real homewrecker is." However, Maya revealed a hideous smile to him that no one else could see. "So what? I have a marriage certificate, and I am Vincent's legally recognized wife. What proof can you provide?" During this time, she was treated like a servant by the Chen family because she couldn't come up with the money to pay them back, so they made her serve Mark's parents. Mark's mother not only nitpicked at her every day but also beat and scolded her every time she thought of her son in prison, while Chen Ming's father always took advantage of others' inattention to grope her. Not only was she not eating well every day, but she didn't even dare to close her eyes when she slept, and her body was covered in injuries. Since childhood, where had Maya suffered such hardship? Just as he was in despair, Vincent finally found the Chen family. Originally, Maya thought Vincent was there to save him. Covered in wounds and filled with grievances, he threw himself into Vincent's arms, weeping bitterly. "Brother Vincent, you've finally come to save me. Please take me away from here. They abuse me every day, and I'm in so much pain." However, Vincent pushed him away forcefully, saying, "You deserve all of this. You should atone for your own sins. I'm here to divorce you." As he spoke, he pulled out a divorce agreement from his pocket and placed it in front of her. "Sign it quickly." At that moment, Qiao Muyan finally understood that Vincent wouldn't help her anymore, so she used signing the divorce agreement as a condition to force Vincent to take her away from the Chen family. Maya attributed all the pain she had experienced to Grace. If it weren't for Grace, Vincent wouldn't have changed his mind, and he would have loved and cared for her wholeheartedly for the rest of his life. But now everything was ruined, all because of Song Qiao. She would definitely make Grace lose her reputation. The reporters on the scene finally couldn't hold back and squeezed forward, surrounding Grace and asking, "Grace, did you get involved in her family as that woman said? Please respond to this. Is what this lady said true? Did you really get involved in someone else's family?" Seeing this, Ethan immediately rushed forward to protect Grace and told the staff on the scene to quickly maintain order. Soon, Maya was escorted out of the press conference by security. The press conference continued as planned, however, at this time, all the situation was broadcast live on the internet by a mobile phone. Backstage at the press conference, Grace's arm was scratched a few times by Maya. Ethan comforted her while helping her to simply treat the wound, until Ju Anua's call came in, and they realized that something was wrong. I don't know how the video from today's press conference was leaked onto the internet. The video was edited very cleverly, creating a stark contrast between the haggard, wronged, and pitiful Maya and the exquisitely dressed Grace sitting on the stage, especially the scene where the thin Maya was awkwardly dragged out of the venue by security, which further ignited public outrage. Netizens unhesitatingly sided with Maya, angrily charging online to take down the mistress. How can a mistress be so arrogant and destroy other people's families? Were you born without a mother to teach you? Disgusting bitch. Everyone at the press conference should apologize to Miss Qiao. Mistress, come out and apologize to Miss Qiao. Ethan suppressed the anger in his heart, put away his phone, and comforted Grace. Let's go, I'll take you back first. Don't worry about this, I will help you solve it. I won't let go of the person manipulating this behind the scenes. Grace also knew that now was not the time for sentimentalism. She followed Ethan out of the fire escape. As the two of them reached the entrance, they ran into Vincent, who looked flustered. Yao, I didn't do this. I didn't know Maya would come here. Can you believe me? I really didn't know he would dare to slander you. As he spoke, he walked over anxiously, trying to take Grace's hand. However, before he could touch Song Shuyao, Ethan pushed him away with a cold face. You still dare to come? If it weren't for you, how could Yao have gone through something like this? Vincent knew he was in the wrong, but he stubbornly explained, Yao, listen to my explanation. I really didn't know he would do something like this. Please believe me. When he saw the video of the press conference and the intense words of netizens online, Wensheng felt as if a large hole had been torn in his heart. He couldn't imagine how sad Grace must have been when she saw those comments, but what scared him even more was that Grace would misunderstand that he had something to do with it. Grace looked at him calmly. I know you didn't do it. Vincent suddenly raised his head, his eyes bursting with surprised light. Yao actually believed him. Did this prove that she had forgiven him? He was so excited that he could hardly speak. But the next second, Grace extinguished all his fantasies. But the evidence he used to spread rumors about me was provided by you. So Vincent, you are not entirely innocent in this matter. After speaking, she took Ethan and turned away without hesitation, leaving Vincent standing stiffly in place, his lips moving. But he couldn't say a word to keep her, and could only watch Grace walk further and further away. At this time, the discussion about this matter on the internet became more and more intense. I revealed that Grace followed Maya and her husband to our class reunion. I felt something was wrong at the time. The two of them were flirting at the party. I didn't expect her to be a mistress. How dare Grace? A mistress dares to bully the original wife. Song the mistress, come out and kneel down to apologize to Miss Qiao. And finally, Maya's public display of the marriage certificate online confirmed that Grace was the other woman, fueling the escalating public opinion. That evening, Vincent received a notice from his company. His boss angrily warned him that if he couldn't handle his personal affairs, he could pack his bags and leave. Vincent had worked hard for 6 years to get to where he was today, and he never imagined that a moment of indiscretion would lead to this. The ringing of his phone pulled him back to reality. Seeing the name flashing on the screen, Vincent gritted his teeth and said, Maya, who gave you the audacity to slander him? Clarify this immediately, or don't blame me for exposing everything you've done. At this point, Maya had lost all reason. She was making a desperate gamble, willing to do anything to drag Song Shu down with her. Vincent, we're in this together now. As long as you put all the blame on Grace, I'll cooperate with you to clear your name and your ex-girlfriend. You're a smart man, you should know what to prioritize." With that, Vincent squeezed his phone tightly, his temples throbbing. From the afternoon onwards, Grace's phone kept receiving calls from unfamiliar numbers, and all sorts of abusive text messages flooded the screen. He could bear with these things alone. But the studio was also implicated because of him. Many emotional netizens flooded the studio's account with messages, demanding the dismissal of the mistress, saying that a studio that employs a mistress is probably not a good thing, and calling for its closure so that Song, the mistress, can publicly apologize to Miss Qiao. Looking at those comments, Grace couldn't help but tear up. Shen Yufeng turned off his phone and said, biting her lip, "Don't look at it anymore. I've already found someone to handle these things. You should rest well for a few days and don't worry." Annie gently took him into her arms. "You didn't do anything wrong. Don't be afraid. We will be with you and help you clarify." Grace knew how much effort Annie had put into the studio, and she couldn't let these people ruin it just like that. She wiped away her tears, cheered herself up, and began to sort out the whole story, from her 6 years of dating Vincent, to Maya's sudden appearance, to her discovery of the fake marriage certificate, to Maya moving into their home. And finally her choice to break up and leave. Just a second before she pressed the send button, Juanli suddenly ran over with surprise. "Yao Yao, come and see, Vincent has issued a statement, and now all the netizens have gone to scold Maya." Grace took the phone and saw his statement. Vincent stated that Grace was the righteous girlfriend who had been with him for 6 years, regarding Maya and their marriage certificate. He released chat logs from that time when Maya found him crying and complaining about being forced into marriage by her family and harassed by a pervert. He claimed that he initially only wanted to help Maya, which is why he got a marriage certificate with her, leading to the series of events that followed. If the statement had ended there, perhaps Maya wouldn't have been criticized so harshly. However, Vincent stated at the end that he too was deceived by her, and that being forced into marriage by her family and being harassed by a pervert were all lies. He also released evidence provided by Mark's family, proving Maya's involvement in other people's relationships and her fraudulent acquisition of money. From beginning to end, Vincent completely absolved himself, portraying himself as another victim. This statement completely reversed public opinion. Those netizens who had been frantically insulting Grace realized they had been used as pawns and turned around to lash out at Maya with even more intense language. Many netizens even joked that this was a real-life version of the farmer and the snake. Vincent had kindly helped Maya, but in the end, he not only lost his girlfriend but was also branded a scumbag himself. The most pitiful one was Song Shuyao, who was just trying to have a normal relationship, but not only had her boyfriend stolen, but she was also vilified as a mistress by netizens. Wasn't Vincent more responsible for this? He kept saying he just wanted to help Maya, but there were so many ways to do it, so why did he have to get a marriage certificate? How could he prove that he had no other feelings for Maya? Grace silently liked this comment and then posted her own clarification, solemnly stating that she and Vincent had broken up long ago, and also adding the fact that Vincent had concealed the fact that he had deceived her with a fake marriage certificate. Ethan and Juanyue also filed lawsuits against all the people who had led the public to insult him. Grace didn't continue to follow the aftermath, but she learned from friends that, because of her clarification post, Vincent was also condemned by netizens, and eventually, because his private life affected the company's reputation, he was fired. Originally, Grace thought that after this incident, she and Vincent would be completely finished, but to her surprise, she saw Vincent downstairs again a few days later. Grace was about to go out for hot pot with Ethan when she looked up and saw Vincent. In just a few days, he had become much haggard. With a pale face and bloodshot eyes, he handed her some papers. Maya had already signed the divorce agreement and would get the divorce certificate in less than a month. "Yao Yao, I have nothing to do with Maya anymore. You can come back with me now." To this day, Vincent still naively believes that Grace left in anger because he and Maya obtained a marriage certificate, so he used most of his savings to help Maya repay the Chen family's debt, so that he would agree to divorce him. As soon as he got the divorce agreement, he couldn't wait to come to Grace. hoping that she could change her mind. However, Grace frowned and took a step back. Vincent, I have made it very clear. I don't love you anymore. We broke up. Whether you divorce Maya or not, I will never get back together with you. Do you understand? After a pause, she glanced at Ethan beside her and took his hand. And I have a new life now, and I have someone I like, so please don't bother me in the future. Vincent stood there stunned, looking at Grace, then at Ethan beside her, thinking for a long time. As if he finally understood what she meant, he forced an awkward smile. Don't joke like that. You love me so much. How could you easily fall in love with someone else? Bite me and stop being mad at me. Let's make up. By the end, his voice even had a hint of crying, and his eyes were full of humility and pleading. Grace sighed helplessly. She couldn't understand why Vincent was so persistent. Was it because he loved her? But if he really loved her, why would he do those things with Maya? Grace couldn't figure out the answer and had no interest in thinking about it anymore. Vincent, stop deluding yourself. You know that I never change my mind about things I've decided. I used to like you, so I loved you wholeheartedly, but now I don't love you anymore, and nothing you do will change that. As soon as she finished speaking, Vincent's face turned ashen, and he looked as if his soul had been taken away, leaving only an empty shell. Grace ignored him and led Ethan away. Only when Vincent's figure was no longer visible did he try to let go of Ethan. But the man held his hand tightly. Qiao, was everything you said just now true? Grace was stunned for a moment before realizing what he meant. Looking at Ethan's red ear tips, his heart stirred, and he frowned in feigned confusion. What? I don't remember. Ethan's heart suddenly sank. You were clearly holding my hand just now and said you had someone you liked. Qiao, don't lie to me. Perhaps because he was too emotional, Ethan's voice trembled slightly, but his eyes were fixed on the girl he loved. Grace could feel how nervous and helpless the always calm and composed man was at this moment. He smiled and shook the hands that were tightly clasped together. Okay, I won't lie to you. I really like you. As soon as he finished speaking, Ethan's eyes suddenly lit up, and he couldn't help but hug Song Qiao tightly. Qiao, I love you. From the love at first sight in college, even though they were separated for 6 years, Ethan's love for Grace never diminished. No one knew that every year, he would quietly fly to Jing City the day before Grace's birthday and stay downstairs at her house for the whole night, just to say a happy birthday. That never received a response. He even thought that he might live alone for the rest of his life. Fortunately, God had mercy, and finally today he found his lost treasure. From now on, he will never let go for the rest of his life. Grace leaned tightly against Ethan's chest, listening to his rapid heartbeat, and unconsciously tightened her arms around his waist. The next morning, Annie stood by the window, waving to Song Shu. Hey, come and see if that's Ethan down there. Grace paused her brushing, toothbrush in mouth, and went to the window to look down. Immediately spotting Ethan standing upright downstairs, knowing he couldn't see her, Grace suddenly felt inexplicably shy, especially with Annie smacking her lips beside her, commenting, "TSK, TSK. Such a devoted lover, running over so early in the morning to find his girlfriend. Qiao, how did you train him? I must learn from you someday. Ha ha ha." These words made Song Shu blush completely, and he quickly changed the subject. "And you, why don't you come have breakfast with us later? We can go to work afterward." Juan-yu grabbed a bag of bread from the table and took a big, ferocious bite. "I'm not going to be a third wheel. You two go, I have something to take care of later." Hearing this, Grace had no choice but to give up, and after a quick wash, she went downstairs. Little Bu ran up to Ethan and asked, "Why are you here so early today?" Ethan gazed at him intently and replied, "I woke up early and had nothing to do, so I came to find you." In reality, he hadn't slept a wink the entire night. It wasn't that he wasn't tired, but he was afraid to fall asleep. He feared waking up and discovering that it had all been a dream. So, before dawn, he ran downstairs to wait, wanting to see Grace as soon as possible and confirm that it was all real. After breakfast, Ethan dropped Grace off at her company building. All of his good mood for the day ended abruptly when he encountered a man at the company entrance. "Grace, hello, my name is Wang Chuan, and I'm a friend of Vincent's. He had a car accident, and I'd like to ask you to visit him in the hospital. After all, You've been together for so many years, you can't be so heartless, can you? Although Wang Chuan's words were polite, judging from his appearance, he probably wouldn't leave today if she didn't go to the hospital. This matter had already affected the studio before, and now he just wanted to resolve it completely. Okay, I'll go to the hospital with you. Wang Chuan breathed a sigh of relief upon hearing this. He had thought that Grace was determined to break up. Now it seemed that she had already regretted it. But was just waiting for an excuse to return to his brother's side. On the way, he kept rambling on, trying to brainwash her, saying that couples always argue, and no obstacle is insurmountable. Why make things so tense in the end? It's not easy to be together for so many years, so cherish this relationship. He repeated such words all the way, all with the intention of persuading her to reconcile with Vincent. However, Grace remained silent, quietly appreciating the scenery outside the window. When the two entered the ward, Vincent was lying in bed, staring blankly at the ceiling. The moment he saw Grace, a glimmer of light suddenly appeared in his eyes. He bit his lip and said, "I knew you were lying to me before. How could you possibly fall in love with someone else? After I recover, let's go back and get married, okay? I will treat you well from now on." The next second, Grace shattered his fantasy. "When did I say I was going to marry you, Vincent, if I remember correctly? You and Maya aren't officially divorced yet. I agreed to come here today just to tell you not to bother me anymore. I have a new life now and don't want any involvement with you." After saying this, she turned to leave without hesitation. Vincent's friends, seeing this, quickly stepped forward to stop her. "Even though Lao He and Maya got married, he didn't actually cheat on you. Why are you being so petty and holding on to it? Besides, he lost his job to clear your name. And he even had a car accident, almost losing his life. We should have some conscience. Let the past be bygones." Grace felt the true meaning of the phrase "a den of snakes and rats" for the first time. She seemed to suddenly understand why Vincent could so confidently ask for her forgiveness after doing those ridiculous things. It was because these people simply didn't think it was a big deal. Since reasoning was useless, she decided to stop being polite with them. "I can agree. But I have one condition." Hearing this, Vincent's eyes turned red with excitement. He couldn't wait to say, "As long as you're willing to marry me, I'll do anything." Grace curled her lips in a mocking smile. "Alright, then come back when I'm remarrying. Maybe I'll consider it then." Before Vincent could speak, the other men's expressions changed. "Are you crazy? Letting Lao He be your consolation prize? How can you say something so shameless? You should take the chance while you have it. Or you'll end up in an embarrassing situation. Forget it. Lao He, bro, I'll introduce you to someone new. Let her regret it." So they did know it was shameless to say something like that, but why was it that when it came to Vincent, they felt justified in asking her to forgive him? Grace scoffed and turned to leave without hesitation, but before she could reach the door, Vincent's hoarse voice suddenly came from behind. "I do." Everyone in the room was stunned by these words. His brothers looked at each other, their faces filled with shock and helplessness. "Vincent, are you crazy? You agreed to this kind of request." However, Vincent ignored them, only stubbornly watching Grace's back, biting his lip. "I promise you, I am willing to wait for you and Ethan." He paused. The following words, seeming difficult to utter, almost squeezed out from between his teeth. "Marry and then divorce, as long as you can come back. I'm willing to wait for you forever." Putting on such a sentimental act now. Where were you before? It's truly disgusting. Grace walked out of the hospital room without hesitation. Since he's willing to wait, then let him wait. Anyway, even if she's divorced, she won't go back to him. A year later, at the company's celebration banquet, Ethan formally proposed to Grace in front of everyone. He wore a suit, knelt on one knee, and held up a diamond ring. The diamond heart he had personally carved sparkled brilliantly under the lights. "Yao Yao, I love you. Will you marry me?" It was clearly his proposal to Grace, but he was the first to be moved to tears. Grace smiled and wiped away a tear from his face, kissing his lips amidst the blessings of everyone. "I do, Ethan." That day, Ethan was like a triumphant general, excitedly lifting his beloved. Upon seeing this, the surrounding friends all gathered around, constantly cheering and screaming. Grace, with her arms around his neck, blushed shyly. When Vincent, who was far away in Beijing, heard the news, he was entertaining several bosses in a private room. Because of the scene Maya made, he lost the job he had worked so hard to build up over the years, and now he had to start all over again. For the sake of a contract, he was being toasted by several bosses in turn, and he had to get drunk almost every day before he could go home. But this time, there would be no one waiting for him at night to cook him a hangover soup. Vincent asked in a daze, "Mr. Chen, what did you just say, Mr.?" Chen and Ethan had been friends for many years and knew about their relationship. Today, he deliberately wanted to get Grace back at, and he said with a smile, "I'm talking about Ethan in Shanghai." President Shin successfully proposed to his girlfriend today, and he was so excited that he burst into tears on the spot. "Come, let's have a drink today and wish them a long and happy life together." Vincent didn't hear a single word except for Ethan proposed successfully, numbly. He picked up his glass and downed the entire glass of hard liquor. The next second, he suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood and fell straight backward. When he woke up again, he was already lying in a hospital bed. Vincent cut off contact with all those friends who had spoken ill of Qiao back then. The only one still by his side was his childhood friend, Lin Yuan. "Do you want some water now that you're awake?" Vincent shook his head blankly. Lin Yuan looked at his dazed expression and felt an indescribable feeling in his heart. From the beginning, he had warned Vincent not to associate with Maya anymore and to live his own life properly. But in the end, Vincent didn't listen to him. Although Lin Yuan knew in his heart that he had only himself to blame for ending up in this state, he couldn't help but sigh as he watched his brother, who he had grown up with since childhood, ruin himself to such an emaciated state in just 1 year. He earnestly advised, "Old he, just forget about Grace. Those words she said back then were just toying with you." A bitter smile tugged at the corners of Vincent's mouth. How could he not understand that Grace was deliberately disgusting him? But he had no other choice. He could only cling to this only chance to give himself a little hope of living. In the middle of the night, he often thought of the days he spent with Grace in the past. If he hadn't been foolish back then, perhaps they would have been married now and had a lovely baby. Unfortunately, there is no what if in the world. That's all for today's story. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. If you have any suggestions, you can leave a message in the comments section to let me know. See you in the next video.